Hey everybody, it's Lo and welcome back to my channel, Lo Without Limits. In this video, I'm going to talk about the importance of having a healthy oral microbiome and tips on how to improve yours. So if you want to see that, then just keep watching. Before I jump into this video, I just want to throw out there that please bear with me as I still recover from being pretty sick. I can speak now, but my voice is still a little rough, and because I do tend to talk fast, I also tend to get myself out of breath pretty quickly now, so sorry about that in advance. But for this video, it is all about the oral microbiome. So at this point, we should all know about our gut microbiome. I actually have an entire video on that, and in that video, I actually have some B-roll of me with some tummy troubles that my parents absolutely love and don't make fun of me for at all. They actually think maybe I deserve an Emmy. You should watch that one if you haven't already. I'll have it linked down below. We are covered in microbes and have all kinds of different microbiomes. So our skin has its own microbiome, our nose, our personal areas, our brains, which scientists once thought was a sterile environment, is now being shown to have its own microbiome as well. And of course, our mouth, our oral microbiome, which is super important because not only does it keep our mouth healthy, keep our breath smelling good, but it's also the start of our digestion. And not only is a healthy oral microbiome tied to just a healthy mouth and a good smile, but it's actually been shown to be connected to a lot of other health consequences and health outcomes within the rest of our body too. So I'm going to go over all of those and different tips on how to improve your microbiome. Fun fact about our oral microbiome. One, not as fun of a fact, but it's one of the easiest microbiomes to study because all you have to do is be like, and they swab something and then they're like, wow, that's your oral microbiome. Versus everywhere else is a little bit hard. Like your gut microbiome is awesome and is really important, but it's hard to get from just anybody walking down the street. It's also the second most diverse spot on our body, and it is home to over 700 different types of bacteria. And all of these bacteria live on different spots, so not all of them are just everywhere in your mouth. Some prefer your teeth, some like your tongue, some like the roof of your mouth or the back of your throat. So they all have their different little homes within your mouth, and your oral microbiome is different from person to person. So we all have some combination of these 700 different bacteria, but it's going to vary from person to person. It's going to vary from the same person, but wherever you are in your mouth. Like if you swab my tongue, it's going to show up different than if you swab this molar over here. And it also changes within the person over time. So for me, I'm getting over being sick. It's probably not the best oral microbiome because I've been mouth breathing and my throat's been dry. My throat's been super just, has not been a good time versus me when I'm being super healthy, or versus me years ago, or even back when I still had tonsils. It's a different oral microbiome and it changes with you all the time. And if you want to get really specific about our bacteria friends in our mouth, they belong to 185 genera. I don't know if that's how you say it, guys. I'm not a scientist, all right? I didn't do science as much as my mom wanted me to. And 12 phyla. And of those, 54% of them are named. 14% of them are cultured, but not named. Scientists are like, we see you, we got you. We don't really care about naming you, which is sad, honestly. And then the other 32% are only known as uncultivated phylotypes, which is basically like, we know that that's a bacteria, and then that's it. They don't really care after. Now again, we all have those same 700 in different ratios and proportions, but there are a few different things that really impact it. So the first one being time and age. Time in the sense of like, if your oral microbiome isn't good right now and you don't really do anything about it, over time, those bad bacteria are just gonna keep multiplying, and then your oral microbiome will get worse, which is why it's better to just take care of it now, even if you're like, oh, but like, what's the point? It's too late. Might as well start now instead of never, because just time will change that, as well as age. As you become older and weaker and more frail, so do your various microbiomes. So it's just super important to take care of that and just take care of your overall health as you are getting older. And that way your body can take care of you as well. And also just with age, like your microbiome is going to change because you're eating different things, you're exposed to different things. Like my 27-year-old oral microbiome is very different than my 5-year-old oral microbiome, mainly because I don't eat Play-Doh anymore. So I don't need any bacteria to be like, why is she eating Play-Doh? Now we have an adult one. We drink wine. And the second main factor is diet. So if you are eating a diet that's super high in sugars, that might lead to more cavities, which is why your mom always said, cool it on the sugar, you're gonna get cavities. Also, if you're always drinking or eating things that are super acidic, like you're always just chugging lemonade, that's gonna create an acidic environment in your mouth. We have a low alkaline mouth, just like slightly basic all of our mouths. And if the environment becomes too acidic, then acidic loving bacteria will take over. In regard to diet, there was actually a study done in the Philippines where they took two different groups of people. One of them were hunter-gatherers, and then another group of people that were more traditional farmers living in a community setting, like a little city. Swabbed all of their oral microbiomes, and they found that the hunter-gatherers had a much more diverse oral microbiome because they're eating so many more diverse foods and they're just kind of out there with nature in comparison to the farmers that are living together in the community. And they correlated that with them having just less diversity in their diet. So less diversity in your diet equals less diversity of your microbes, which just makes them less robust. So by including more diversity within your diet, then that will just help improve your oral microbiome as well. And then they're also saying that, well, that's how it is with these farmers in the rural Philippines in this little community, then how is it with, you know, more modern societies such as us who often eat the standard American diet, just full of just like sugars and oils and just refined and processed foods. If theirs is already weaker than the hunter-gatherers, then like ours is also not that good. Other noted factors that impact your oral microbiome are your gender. Whether or not you were breastfed as an infant actually has a huge impact on your oral microbiome and your gut microbiome, just where you're living, as well as fluctuations in your body temperature and the temperatures of foods that you're eating. And then going back to diet, just if there's more acidic foods that you're eating, that can also just change your oral pH, which affects your oral microbiome. And like all the other parts of your body, some of these bacteria are good, some are bad, and it's okay to have some of the bad ones, but the whole point is to have more good than the bad. So if the bad start getting out of hand, the good can be like, let's not get out of hand and we'll kill them off. But there's always just like a nice healthy balance that we need. And when these are imbalanced, it creates a state of dysbiosis. And again, that impacts much more than just your oral health and whether or not you get a cavity, but impacts a lot of other things in your body that you would never really correlate to your mouth hygiene. So starting off with the mouth, the most obvious one, cavities. So cavities are often caused by having a lot of sugar and carbs in your diet and in your mouth, and they turn into these acid-loving bacteria that just gnaw away at the hard tissues in your mouth, aka your teeth. And the bacteria that are mainly in charge of this, and I'm busting out my phone for this part because some of these words are very hard, are the various Streptococcus bacteria, Phosphomonas, Actinomyces, Prevotella, Diaster, and Filofactor. And other oral diseases that are caused by a dysbiosis in your mouth are gingivitis and periodontal diseases, which affect your gums. And patients with these gum diseases had a much higher level of 29 different bacteria than patients that did not have these gum diseases. And another oral impact is mucosal diseases, which is just different things that affect the mucosal lining or the skin of your mouth and lead to different ulcers and sores. But again, it's not just oral diseases that are impacted by your oral microbiome. It is closely connected to other parts of your body as well. One of those being your gastrointestinal tract and different gastrointestinal diseases, such a hard phrase to say, including inflammatory bowel disease, Crohn's, colitis, and just other gut issues, mainly because, again, the mouth is the start of your digestion. And a lot of these diseases have to deal with inflammation in your gastrointestinal tract, and your oral microbiome can actually cause inflammation, which leads to all those various diseases by reducing the T helper cells, which are good and are very beneficial for your gut, and increasing the invading cytokine cells, which lead to more inflammation. And with an imbalanced oral microbiome, it can also make it harder for your body to fight off any unwanted fungi invaders that are in your gut and not doing any good for you. And the connection between these diseases in your mouth has been seen with inflammatory bowel disease patients who also have oral symptoms such as ulcers and dry mouth. And studies show that these patients have an increase in Streptococcus, Prevotella, Haemophilus, and V. anelia. Words are hard. Other impacts include nervous system diseases such as Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's, and dementia. And studies are actually showing this connection more and more. In terms of Alzheimer's disease, different studies have actually shown that there's different bacteria that are more prevalent in patients with Alzheimer's disease than in those without it. In a lot of these studies, when they compare Alzheimer's disease patients to control patients that don't have Alzheimer's disease, there's actually a lipopolysaccharide from the oral anaerobe polyformis gingivalis in the brains of Alzheimer's disease patients. And those patients also have higher levels of antibodies for other oral bacteria. And the good news out of all this increased research further proving this connection is that they can now use the presence of these serum antibodies as a diagnostic and predictive tool moving forward in order to try to catch these different diseases before they manifest and become full-fledged Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's disease. factors. Next, endocrine system diseases like diabetes are also impacted, not just because of the diet connection, but because of the connection to other periodontal diseases. So people with type 1 diabetes, which is the one that you are born with, are more likely to develop different periodontal diseases because of that connection. And those who later develop type 2 diabetes, which is not the one that you're born with, but just developed with lifestyle and different other health factors, are more inclined to later develop periodontal disease. So it's really a two-way street between diabetes and different periodontal diseases. And in different studies, patients with type 2 diabetes have a higher percentage of TM7, Agrigotobacter, Neisseria gemella, Echinella, Selenomyces, Actinomyces, Capnotophagia, Fusobacterium, Villanella, and Streptococcus genera in comparison to non-diabetes patients. There's also a mouse study done using germ-free mice, whatever that means and however that happens, and the mice with diabetes actually had a more pathogenic, aka bad, destructive, not good, oral microbiome in comparison to mice that didn't have diabetes. Obesity is also tied to an imbalanced gut and oral microbiome, and this has been shown with studies where they take poo of a fat mouse and put it into the poo of a skinny mouse, and then the skinny mouse gets fat even though they didn't change anything else, which is a gross study. And then vice versa, just proving that the gut and all these different microbiomes change with obesity. And not only is the microbiome changing as one becomes obese, but that the microbiome could actually impact whether or not you get obese based on your lifestyle factors. And on a less gross study on the oral microbiome and obesity, the microbiome that's picked up in different saliva samples actually changes as one becomes obese. Immune system diseases such as rheumatoid arthritis are also connected to the oral microbiome, and rheumatoid arthritis as well as other autoimmune diseases are mainly genetic, and it's your genetics that really lines you up to getting it. But these studies have shown that having a dysbiosis in your microbiome actually triggers more of this flare-up in your immune flare-up to lead to whatever autoimmune disease you have. And when you don't have symptoms, it's also because your microbiome is in a more balanced state. And one study shows this as the microbiome is in dysbiosis as patients are having an intense RA flare-up, rheumatoid arthritis, and that their microbiome goes back to normal once it's treated. And in terms of these RA patients, Haemophilus was depleted and Lactobacillus salaris was increased during these active RA flare-ups, just proving that different bacteria can do different things to your body, especially if you already have the genetic predisposition to different autoimmune diseases. And as other studies are confirming this and looking into the connection between your microbiome and other autoimmune diseases, it can also be used as a really good tool as a predictive factor to see whether or not you'll get it, or as a diagnostic tool when you're in the doctor's office with these different symptoms and you're trying to figure out what exactly is the problem. And lastly, cardiovascular diseases such as atherosclerosis and heart disease have also been connected to oral dysbiosis. The bacteria Creosominus, Villanella, and Streptococcus were seen in the majority of these patients' oral microbiomes, and other bacteria have been shown to be connected to having arterial plaque. Studies are also looking at different bacteria in your mouth and in your gut that are tied to cholesterol levels, which also leads to an increase in different cardiovascular diseases. And again, as these connections are being made, they can be really useful tools for diagnosing patients and also for just treating them before they become bigger issues down the line. And now the fun part, some super simple tips on how to improve your oral microbiome in order to help your whole body. The first one is to choose better for your biome oral care products. A lot of mouthwashes have alcohol in it, and that is just blasting all of the bacteria to death. And you think, that's what I want to do. I don't want bad bacteria. I don't want stank breath. Well, by doing that, you're also killing off the good bacteria, and then that's just like leaving your mouth a wide open space for anything to come in, for the bad ones to come in and take over because the good ones aren't there to fight them off. So by avoiding alcohol in your mouthwashes and any of your oral care is super important, as well as avoiding any unnecessary antibiotics. Those just kind of wreak havoc on your whole body. Again, they are killing any bacteria in its way. Yes, it's going to get rid of the bad ones that are causing whatever your issue is, but it's also going to get rid of the good ones. So only use antibiotics if you absolutely need to, especially since there is antibiotic resistance and all this stuff going on because of our overuse of them. So just watching out for unnecessary antibiotic use, unnecessary alcohol in your different oral care products, as well as unnecessary fluoride being added. A little bit is fine, but it's just everywhere. It's in our water. It's in every single toothpaste ever. Too much of it will also cause dysbiosis. So just being more mindful about what you're using to clean your teeth. My personal favorites, I've been using the Bite toothpaste bits lately. I've absolutely been loving those. They also have mouthwash bits that I've been using, which I really enjoy. So really loving those, also because they're eco-friendly, so win-win there. Another mouthwash that I like is NYX. In terms of toothpaste, you can use the bits. I also like David's because it's fluoride free, also in aluminum packaging. So just really being careful with what toothpaste you're using, what mouthwash you're using. You don't need all the dyes, all the fragrances, all the junk, all the fluoride. You don't need all of that. Finding a good natural toothpaste that still works. And in terms of bite, it actually has a fluoride alternative called NHA, or nanohydroxyapatite, which is really good for just strengthening the enamel of your teeth. That way they can stay shiny and strong. Tip number 2 is to floss first. So everybody always grows up learning to brush your teeth and then floss afterwards. And in the last year, I've started to think that's so stupid. You're brushing your teeth and there's like gunk between your teeth, and you're just cleaning the gunk, and then your toothbrush isn't getting in between your teeth. And then afterwards you're like, now I'm gonna floss, and you just get all that gunk back onto the surface of your teeth. It doesn't make any sense to me. And by flossing first, you're actually just cleaning out all that gunk, cleaning out all that space between your teeth. You're getting the gunk out of there. And then when you go to brush your teeth, you're brushing all the gunk away. You're actually getting the toothpaste and your bristles in between your teeth, which is where everything loves to hide. So by flossing first, you're managing to get in there and then clean your teeth and have a good smile. And also, if you're like me and you have a permanent retainer, I know it's annoying. It's stupid. It's the most annoying thing in the world. Use one of these. My dentist got mad at me because I saw her and she was like, are you flossing? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, but are you flossing underneath your permanent retainer? And I was like, no. So get one of these because it'll be gunky and they'll be hard to clean, and then that affects, because right up on your gum line, it will actually affect your gums, and then your gums will recede, and it's a whole issue. So use one of these if you have a permanent retainer. Another thing that I've been using since last seeing my dentist is this water pick. I have the cordless one because it's smaller and easier, and I absolutely love it because you can really get up in your gums, which is good also because I used to have a tendency of like brushing really hard, which is good because I've never had cavities, but my dentist was like, girl, you're like brushing your gums away and you have your dad's genetics, which means that like you might need to get a gum graft, which is sad. But to protect my gums, on top of flossing, on top of brushing, using this because it's a much more gentle way to just get all that plaque and any buildup away from your gums. That way I can have healthier gums and maybe I won't need a gum graft one day. Tip number 3 is to reduce your sugar intake. So not only is sugar not good for your overall health, but scientists and moms agree that is the #1 cause of cavities. So one of the oral effects of a high sugar diet is the production of these acid producing and acid loving bacteria such as Streptococcus mutans, which will eat away at your teeth and cause cavities, as well as just a host of other problems if you're having a high sugar diet. Tip number 4 is to eat your colors, and yes, I've managed to bring eating your colors into an oral microbiome video because what you eat and drinks affects your oral microbiome and your saliva. And similar to the other tip, eating a diet that's high in sugars and high in carbs can just throw off your mouth's pH, make it more acidic, make your tooth enamel start to go away, create cavities. But the opposite of that, eating your colors, getting vegetables in, actually builds back your enamel, strengthens your microbiome, makes it more diverse by bringing in more good bacteria that's new and just adding the robustness to it. I'm also gonna bring fiber back into it because having a fiber-rich diet builds back that enamel, brings in that diversity, and by having a whole food nutrient dense diet, you're gonna get calcium in, which is really important for building healthy, strong bones, such as your teeth, as well as magnesium, which works alongside the calcium to rebuild your enamel. And you also need to get in some good vitamin D, which you can get through diet and sunshine, because vitamin D is how the calcium and magnesium will absorb and be properly used. So by eating just a whole foods, nutrient rich diet, you can get in all the vitamins and minerals that you need for a healthy oral microbiome and gut microbiome and just healthy body overall. Tip number 5 is to have smaller blood sugar spikes. I tried to keep it all the S's because similar to diet, if you have diabetes or pre-diabetes, keeping your blood glucose level stable will help keep your mouth healthy, because again, there's that connection between periodontal disease and diabetes. And by having higher blood glucose levels, it actually affects your oral microbiome by producing more bad bacteria. So by keeping your blood sugar, your blood glucose levels stable, you can have a healthier oral microbiome too. Tip number 6 is to stop stressing. Having high cortisol levels or just overall not feeling your best because you aren't working out a lot, or you're just super stressed, or you're not getting great sleep can actually impact your oral microbiome too. And this is because it just weakens your immune system and weakens your microbiome when you are tired or under stress. So more bad bacteria can come in, they can invade. And then it also, when you are tired or feeling stressed, you may not make the best diet decisions, and then that goes back to not having a good oral microbiome. So by reducing your stress and getting good sleep and exercising properly, your whole microbiome, your whole body can be in order. And lastly, tip number 7, I can't believe I'm even like really gonna say this because it's 2022, people, but stop smoking. It's gross. In this day and age, we're really still out there doing that. Why? It doesn't make any sense. They're gross. Stop smoking. It's so bad for your oral microbiome. Of all things, think about your oral microbiome. And that's probably why smokers have really yellow teeth and really stinky breath. Just stop smoking, guys. It's 2022. It's gross. Well, there you have it. That is all about the oral microbiome and tips on how to improve yours. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Comment down below what your healthy smile tips are and what else you want to see here on my channel. And while you're there, be sure to subscribe. I upload a new video every Wednesday. So until the next one, thanks for watching.